Well, hello everyone. Thank you to those of you that follow me on Twitter, which is what you should do if you don't already, and those of you that are subscribed to this channel, and you should also do that if you haven't done so already. Today it's going to be Q&A time where I ask you for questions on Twitter and you respond. I am excited about this, so let's go ahead and get started. We'll see. I might even break this up into two parts because I got enough questions. First question comes from Spenny P19. He asks, what town or city did you grow up in when you lived in Illinois? Rockford. That's where I was born, bred, raised, grew up, graduated high school. I lived there the first, 26-ish years of my life? Rockford, Illinois, yes. So 90 minutes west of Chicago, second biggest city in the state of Illinois. What a depressing shithole that was, and I'm so glad that I made the decision in the mid-2000s to leave. It was the best thing for me at the time. I'm glad, and I would never go back. I don't think. Gio knows. Oh, this ought to be good. Come on, Gio. What you got for me this time? Given that we are only 6 months into the Biden administration, how concerned are you about the inflation rate, which is the highest it's been in almost 30 years? I'm concerned first about your question, which on its surface would not be factually accurate. Inflation that is both too low and too high can be concerning. When you talk about fiscal policies, especially in the first year of any new presidency, like a lot of that is still carryover from the previous regime, especially previous administration, especially when you talk about the way that fiscal budgets work. And maybe this is not a thing in Canada where you're at, Gio, but it is here in the U.S. There are other things that I'd be concerned about with this U.S. economy. The home market, to me, is a significant concern. There's certainly elements that are reminiscent to me of 2007 to 2009. People are acting like idiots. People are putting in bids and buying houses way above what they're valued at. There's some concerning things out there economically. The wealth gap continues to get larger. There are a lot of things. Inflation, which, like I said, again, fundamentally your question is flawed because that's not accurate, is not the biggest one of them at this point. Mags the NFL Nerd asks, who is the most underrated NFL head coach to win the Super Bowl? For years you could have said Tom Flores because he won 2 of them, and it took him over 30 years after he last coached to make it to the Hall of Fame, or somewhere along there. A really long time. But I'll go with Mike Holmgren. You're going to say, oh, that's stupid. But if you really think about it, people don't think about Holmgren being as great of a coach as they should, and they absolutely should. He went to 2 Super Bowls in Green Bay, won 1, then went to Seattle, and in a few years built them into a team that went to a Super Bowl that could have won 1. I think he's underrated in terms of just how really good he was. His ability to get top-flight offensive performances, his ability to develop and mold quarterbacks. I'm going to go with Mike Holmgren, who's the most overrated head coach to win a Super Bowl. Most overrated. Don Shula. Ooh. You're going to be like, he has the most career wins, and yeah, but he hung on about 20 years past when the hell he should have. We can talk about all the Super Bowl wins, but those happened in the early 70s. He had Dan Marino for a decade and didn't win a championship with him. So I think it's Don Shula, personally. Same guy that lost Super Bowl III. I'm just saying. Stephen Hilton 92 asked, do you feel that after everything Tom Brady has accomplished, has he become the GOAT of all football, not just quarterbacks, over legends like Jerry Rice or Lawrence Taylor, in your opinion? Plays the most important position at a time where the position is more important than ever. He's won 7 championships. His stats hold up really well. Yeah. The difference between Jerry Rice and every other wide receiver that's ever played the game is still pretty large. Unless you want to go old school and you want to throw Don Hutson in there and his statistical dominance relative to his peers, then Don Hutson's the greatest wide receiver of all time, not Jerry Rice. But, yeah, I think you got to go with Tom Brady as the GOAT of all time. You like it or not, but reality is reality. At WWE Do the Dab. Can you be pro-life and support reductions in the social safety net system, such as welfare and food stamps, and just tell people to get a job? No, it's hypocritical. There are lots of things about pro-abortion, anti-abortion that is full of hypocrisy. Can't sit there and say you're pro-life and then say, hey, yeah, we love war and we love guns and fuck your safety nets. Once you're born, you're on your own, but in 18 years, we'll give you guns and war. I get it. It's hypocritical. It's garbage. You can't say you're pro-life and then not actually do the things that are required to support the life that you claim that you were in favor of. Just saying. Shy Loudmouth. What should the Cubs do at the trade deadline and in the offseason? Should they tear it all down, or should they retool around at least one of Baez, Bryant, or Rizzo and go after free agents? If they don't tear it down, I don't want another offseason of crying poor and standing pat. I wouldn't be surprised if they're crying poor and standing pat. At the trade deadline at this point, they got to be sellers. Like, it's time to remake this thing. It's time to tear it down. Get used to it. It's going to feel like a lot of the old Tribune Corporation ownership days really soon. At Z Visions, what are your thoughts on Triple H's wrestling career as a whole, management career aside? I think you should ask that on the OTRS Central Twitter handle, which is the Twitter account where I talk about professional wrestling. This is the more personal, sports, life-related one where we talk about those types of topics. So if you want me to talk about God, you should tweet that question over there. Nice try. Not going to work. Ugh. At Kuiper _ the third. What current college football coaches are poised to be potential 2022 NFL head coaches? Lincoln Riley is going to get thrown out there every year until he eventually makes the damn jump. I would always throw out there in the past a guy like David Shaw at Stanford, but his Stanford teams have got to be a little bit better for him to get a little more interest, if he's even interested. Campbell at Iowa State, I think certainly is going to get a lot of strong looks, and you could say, well, he seems like he wants to be there. That's for now. We'll see what happens. Maybe a Pat Fitzgerald. Maybe at some point in time a Dabo Sweeney wants to take a stab at the pros. Maybe a Ryan Day. Like, I know I'm just naming a lot of the big name notable program coaches, but a lot of them could make that jump. Because there's a thing of, like, you could be great in college, but NFL is still the NFL. That's the biggest deal. That's where you can be truly legendary. At J.A. Wood, if you're the Pacers front office, what would you do with the 13th overall pick? Not fire Nate McMillan. Nate McMillan sucks. They're going to replace him. And then they fired the coach that they replaced McMillan with after 1 year. Like, that was not good. What would I do with that 13th overall pick? I think they need a scorer. So if a Book Knight is there, a Moody is there, somewhere along those lines, that's got to be an option. Are you going to say, what about Levert? What about him? You need some scores. You could just say best player available. Maybe you're talking about packaging that up. Like, are you talking about packaging up like Miles Turner in the 13th pick, and what's that really going to get you? I'm not sure. Like, they're in that kind of middle ground purgatory space, and that's the worst place to be. At A_Graham23, what would be the best destination for Kawhi this offseason? I really like the potential of him finding his way somehow to the Mavericks. Well, the best destination for him from a financial standpoint would be to re-sign with the Clippers and get that max deal. And you could also say re-signing that max deal and staying with the Clippers, so that way he's not trying to pull some sign and trade crap where he ends up going and has the other team get gutted, and then it's just him and maybe a Luka, or him and somebody else on another team, and then you're right back in the same situation you are with the Clippers. It's interesting with Kawhi because you might say, well, maybe he'll just leave via free agency. I don't see that happening, because Kawhi is a guy That doesn't strike me as living an extravagant lifestyle. Kawhi is also a guy that's not going to make a ton of money off the court with shoe deals, with endorsements and everything like that. It's just not really his jam. He's not really a needle mover like that. So he has to maximize the revenue and income that he can make from basketball contracts, which obviously he's going to do incredibly well at, and has done incredibly well at already. But I think right now probably the best fit is still going to be staying with the Clippers. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter where he goes. If he's going to sit there and get hurt and miss key parts of the playoffs, then it doesn't really fucking matter at this point. Joseph Moran, how hard would you laugh if LeBron changed his name to LeBitch James? LeBitch James? I like more of LaFraud or LaFlop, personally. Come on, man. Leave LeBron alone. Let him enjoy the NBA Finals at home in peace, just like you are. Let's see here. Who's next? At Nagy Sucks, fire him. What are your thoughts on the death of John McAfee? Are we assuming there's some type of conspiracy here? I mean, I see that he had passed away. Assume that there probably is something to it, but also assume that I didn't really want to go down the rabbit hole of seeing what the hell everybody thinks is the reason that it happened. Like, this is not like an Epstein thing where everybody fucking knows damn good and well that something smells fishy there. I mean, we know it flat out stinks. We know there was some shit went down there. McAfee, I really don't know enough truly about the circumstances and even where he was at. Like, wasn't he in prison? Like, I haven't paid a ton of attention on it, so I'm going to largely refrain from making an opinion on it. At BPeth00, do you think the Pistons are serious about trading the number 1 pick? And if you were the GM, what kind of package would you want for that pick? See, here's an example of where I would say, okay, I would do it. Is, let's say, for argument's sake, Houston says, we want Cade Cunningham. We were supposed to be pick 1. He's destined for us. We'll do this and give you some type of future first-round pick, even though I don't know what Houston really has to give up. Then if you're Detroit, you say, okay, you know what? We might gamble on the upside of Jalen Green. Or maybe you say, hey, Cleveland, but I don't know about that because you run the risk Detroit and Cleveland in the same division. Do you want Cade Cunningham kicking your ass in Cleveland for several years? I don't know. I think they got to stay there at 1, honestly. Because I don't know if the package is worth it. I don't know if it lines up. I don't know if it makes sense. I mean, it's an interesting thought. Like, try to extort a future first-round pick. Like you had the Sixers dumb dicks do a couple of years ago when they traded up from 3 to 1 to go get Markelle Fultz, and the Boston Celtics got additional drafted capital to take the vastly better player in Jason Tatum. Like, I don't know. At MC17 Clark, who is your most hated rapper of all time and why? Mine is Lil Wayne. Not a fan of him kissing other rappers on the lips, are you? His stupid skinny pants and fuck. Lil Wayne doesn't. My most hated rapper of all time, honestly, is Jay-Z. It really is. Not that he's terrible or anything like that. I'm not saying anything like that. I think to me it's a reflection of the people around me for 2 decades trying to talk about how great he fucking is, and he's not that fucking great. It was a perfect combination for him and Beyonce where being together in a relationship helped boost both of their careers. And you get this weird space where people think with Jay-Z that that's not true, and that's total bullshit. I think he's decent lyrically, somewhat overrated. I think it's Jay-Z, to me personally. I don't hate him, but I just despise the thought of everybody just hyping up how freaking great he is. That's just for me. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to close on that note for this Q&A. Tomorrow I'll put up another Q&A video which will touch on the rest of the questions that were asked. I look forward to getting through some of these. So thank you guys that submitted your questions. If you asked questions that weren't answered yet, hold tight because they might be answered tomorrow. Smash that subscribe button. Follow me on Twitter if you don't already. All right, I'll see you then.